What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Sam, and in today's video I'm going to talk about my top 5 guitars that I own. Now, I've been a guitar collector for almost 20 years now, and I've been fortunate enough to have owned some really cool guitars in the past. However, there's always been one or two guitars that kind of stand out from the rest, and that's basically what I'm going to be focusing on today. These guitars are special to me, whether it's because they look great, they sound great, they feel great, or there's simply some kind of sentimental value to each instrument. Now, I know that sometimes these gear rundowns can be a little pretentious, but honestly, if you are a gearhead like myself, then you probably will enjoy this sort of content. I mean, I know I do. I watch it all the time. I watch other YouTubers kind of go through their gear and talk about it, what they like. So I hope this is interesting to you, so let's get started. Now, I've organized this list by year of acquisition to sort of appease my OCD. So I'm gonna be talking about the first real guitar that I've ever gotten. This is a 1999 Gibson Les Paul Classic, which you have probably seen on the channel already in some of my videos. Now, the Classic is basically sort of like your middle ground of Les Pauls. At the time in the 90s, you had your studios, then you had your classics, your standards, and then custom shops, and so on. Nowadays, there's more affordable Gibson, USA Gibson guitars, but this one at the time was kind of like in the middle ground. So prior to getting this guitar, I knew that I was going to get a Les Paul someday or somehow. It's always been my favorite guitar. I'm a huge Gibson fanboy, as you've probably seen. But yeah, I got this guitar right after I graduated high school. I started working really early on in my life. I was like 14 or 15. I had a part-time job at the time, and I remember working a few summers and after school, and I was able to save around $400. So I saw this guitar at my local Sam Ash store, and I automatically fell in love with the guitar. It looked great, it sounded great, and it was a guitar that I wanted. So as soon as I graduated high school, I applied for a credit card through my local bank, and I actually got approved for $1,000 credit line. And what does a teenager with a credit card do? As soon as they give them a card, they go ahead and spend it all, right? So that's basically what I did. I ran to the store. Luckily, the guitar was still hanging on the shelf. And I was able to purchase it. I think it was like $1,400-ish at the time, and yeah, I couldn't be happier. This has been my #1 guitar. I have gigged with this guitar back then, even recently, and it's a workhorse. It's my favorite guitar. It really is special because not only was I able to buy it myself with hard work, you know, it's sort of it's your first guitar. It's simple as that. This guitar has seen numerous different pickup changes throughout its life, 20 years of existence. The only thing that's original, it's some of the hardware and the tuners, but basically all of the insides have been changed. I have currently a wiring harness from RS Guitar Works, I believe that's what they're called. I changed that a few years ago, and I currently have Seymour Duncan Antiquities on this guitar, and they sound fantastic. They're actually my favorite guitar pickups ever made. I actually have a set of Antiquities on my Gold Top as well, which sound fantastic. And the guitar itself has it has a darker tone, and I feel that the Antiquities really kind of bring up that a little more brightness to the sound, and they kind of balance out. It's a very natural sounding guitar. 90s Gibson Les Pauls are regarded to be a good year of guitars. Supposedly they were using really good wood at the time in the 90s, so I don't know, but it sounds really good. It's different, obviously, than any other guitars that I have. Most of my guitars are a little bit brighter sounding, so this is a good kind of counterbalance to that tone of the other guitars that I have. And like I said, it's my baby, it's my #1. And it looks really rough right now, and that's mainly because I did a little bit of home relicking to it. Now, some people are going to think I'm crazy for doing that, but honestly, this guitar is going to be with me forever. I don't plan on selling this guitar. This is probably gonna be passed on to my kids or grandkids or whatever. So when I decided to do the relicking, I knew that I wasn't gonna sell it. So the guitar was already experiencing some finish cracking because of the nitro finish. So basically I just continued and I sped up the aging process to make it look really beat up, and I think this guitar deserves it. You know, it's been with me ever since, and you know, it's cool. I like the way it came out. So yeah, so this is my number one. This is my first real guitar, and I love it to death. So let's move on to the second one now. All right, so this is a 2014 Gibson Custom Shop Les Paul Custom in this cool silver burst finish. I always wanted a Les Paul Custom, and at the time they were so hard to get because I just didn't have the money to buy one. So with time, obviously, as I got older, I was able to purchase my first custom a few years ago, actually. And this guitar is really cool. I bought it used, and I got a really good deal on this guitar. And I will mention a few things on it shortly, but I've always liked the silver burst finish. It's if you guys are fans of Tool, then you probably like this sort of finish because that's what Adam Jones plays with. He loves 80s Les Pauls, the silver burst finish, and I got it at a really good price because apparently the previous owner who had this guitar, when he first got it, apparently he was so excited to open up the case that he didn't let the guitar kind of sort of acclimate to the weather. And if you see, there's a huge finish crack that runs along the whole guitar. So obviously that brought down the price on the guitar quite a bit. And also the fact that this guitar is a 2014 model, and Gibson at the time stopped using ebony fretboards, and they had to resort on using Richlite, which is some kind of composite plastic material that a lot of guitar manufacturers actually use on fretboards. And so obviously a lot of people kind of dislike these guitars because of that. And that's what Gibson has been using on all of their custom guitars, since they cannot use ebony in a lot of their instruments, only on the higher end models like true historics or like special runs. They've been using Richlites on all the custom guitars. Honestly, I have another custom guitar that has the ebony fretboard. It's a 2012, and I can't tell the difference as far as the feel or sound of the guitar. I mean, I know a lot of Gibson purists love that ebony fretboard. I mean, I understand if you're paying over $4,000 for a brand new Gibson custom, then you want to try to get the best components out there. But honestly, there's really no sound difference that I can hear, at least, between the ebony fretboard or the Richlite. So if you guys are in the market to get a custom and don't really care about that, then these obviously past the 2012 mark. You can find these actually quite a bit cheap, as opposed to buying an older one that has the ebony fretboard. So like I said, to me it doesn't make a difference as long as the guitar plays well, looks great. I don't care what material it's made of. This guitar sounds fantastic. It's all stock. It's got the 498, I believe, on the bridge, and the 496 or 490 on the neck. That's kind of been the combination on all custom guitars, Les Paul customs from the 90s and up. They sound fantastic. They're actually not the most popular pickups that Gibson makes. A lot of people like the 57 Classics and other pickups, but I like these pickups, especially on this guitar. It's bright, it's got a really nice tone to it. I love it. Like I said, the Gibson Les Paul Customs have always been my favorite. And I was really happy and lucky to finally own one. And this one sounds great. I love it. I really love this guitar. There's other couple things that the guitar had. There's a little bit of a finish crack here. Also here in the headstock, you can see that it also has that finish line that comes across. That's actually from the weather, like I mentioned earlier. So I got it at a really good deal. So I couldn't be happier with this thing. So I love this thing to death. So let's move on to the number 3. All right, so this one is a 2016 Gibson Custom Shop 1958 Les Paul reissue. It's an R8 as they call it. I got this one not too long ago. This is has become actually my favorite Les Paul out of all the ones that I own. As far as sound, looks, everything. The black Les Pauls are kind of important to me or sentimental to me because in the 90s there were a lot of black Les Pauls standards. This was it is kind of like a limited release. They made a few 1958 reissues in all black. So when I saw this guitar for sale, I was like, oh man, that's awesome. That's the color I've always liked on a Les Paul standard on a 58 reissue. So I also got a good deal on the guitar. All of my guitars pretty much are used. I barely buy new guitars. I feel that you can find some really good deals online for used Les Paul, especially if you have the patience and the time to look for them. And obviously you gotta have the money as well, but you can really get a good deal on these used instruments rather than buying new. And like I said, 95% of my guitars are used. And this one was pretty much mint condition. The guy, one owner, apparently he just couldn't gel with the guitar or whatever, for whatever reason he sold it, or maybe he just wanted to get something else. But I got really lucky on this one too. Got it at a really good deal. And it's fantastic. It's an amazing guitar. The fretboard, as you can see, it's got this really nice kind of like red tint to it. Like some kind of like stripes that go through. It's beautiful. Sounds fantastic. These come stock with the custom buckers, which are, in my opinion, one of the best pickups that Gibson has ever made so far. They're very close to PAFs, and you can only get them on the custom shop models. Everything's stock on this guitar. I haven't changed anything, will not change anything. I will leave it as it is. And it stays in tune really great for a Gibson. The neck is quite chunky. It's got that nice 58 kind of baseball bat neck, which I love. It's one of the thickest necks that I've had on all my guitars. So it's fantastic. I love the combination of the black with the cream and the amber knobs. It's just a killer guitar. And yeah, so this one, it's one of my newer guitars. There's really no true kind of like story to it, other than the fact that I've always liked a black Les Paul. So yeah, so this is it. This is one of my favorite Les Pauls, and let's move on to the next guitar now. So this one here is a 2016 Fano Al De Facto JM6. As you can see, this is based off a Fender Jazzmaster. It's got that nice offset body. And I came across a guitar that was very similar to this one during a trip to Nashville with my wife. I stopped at a vintage guitar store over there, and I played a guitar that was very similar to this one, except it was in Sonic Blue, I believe. And it blew me away. I loved the sound, and just the feel of the guitar was excellent. I've always been a fan of offset guitars, even though I'm more of a Les Paul guy, but I've always found this shape to be kind of unique looking. And you look at this thing, it's got that red stripe that comes across, it's got the checking, all the relicking, and it's just awesome. I also got this one online. Also, I got it at a good price, and it was basically brand new from the store. The store was basically kind of blowing out all of the final guitars that they had. They were no longer going to be an authorized dealer, so I got it at a good time, at a good deal, and it's become one of my favorite guitars too. I've done a few videos on the channel using this guitar. It's got that nice maple neck that's pretty much all worn out. And yeah, it's got all sorts of dings and checking. It's really bright. It's a really bright guitar, one of the brightest guitars that I have. And again, it's just fantastic. Fano Guitars are a boutique company. Now it's owned by somebody else, but they still make some really quality instruments. They sort of kind of kept that legacy of really boutique, well-made kind of guitars, and this one is no exception. It's an amazing guitar. I love it to death, and like I said, it made the top 5 for a reason. So, all right, so let's move to the last guitar. All right, guys, and lastly, you guys have seen this guitar already. I made a gear spotlight video on it a few months ago. This is a 1961 Gibson Les Paul Jr. SG. This is the only vintage guitar that I own, and I couldn't be happier with this thing. It's just fantastic. I know I mentioned on the last video how much I liked it, but now owning it for a few months now, I can say that I am in total love with this guitar. I've been really kind of bonding with this guitar a lot lately, and I don't know if it's because of the fact that it's so old, that it's already kind of worn out. It's got so many stories behind it, probably. You know, it's a 40+ year guitar, so it's an amazing guitar. It sounds great. I know I mentioned how thin the neck was. Actually, it's a thin neck, but it's got this nice wide feel to it that I really like. And it just kind of falls in your hand really nicely. And it feels great, man. It's just an awesome guitar. The P90, it's amazing. It has a very organic sort of tone with a lot of bite. It's not super loud, but it's got a really nice character, very rounded, very woody sort of tone that I really like. Quite possibly the best P90 that I have played, and it's just awesome, just an awesome guitar. I mean, I know it has some flaws, like the extra holes that they drill on this thing, which is a shame, but you know, it's part of the character of the guitar, part of the life that it's gone through, so it's scarred, you know what I mean? So I like that a lot. The fretboard is beautiful, and it's just awesome, just an awesome feeling, awesome sounding guitar. And I am so glad that I was able to acquire this guitar, and at the price that I did. This is a piece of history, and I value this a lot. It means a lot. It's a lot of hard work. So I am extremely grateful, extremely happy to own this particular instrument. So alright guys, so this does it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, subscribe to the channel if you like 90s punk rock covers, gear related content. Go to my Instagram, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications, and I will see you guys on the next video. Cheers.